We're going to be talking about long division and synthetic division to divide polynomials. When you divide a polynomial, it is exactly the same thing when you're doing long division. It's basically the same thing as using long division in arithmetic division. So the steps are basically the same. If I'm going to divide 12 into 277, first thing I ask myself is how many times does 12 go into 27? That would be 2. Then I multiply the 2 times 12 to get 24. Then I subtract down. Same thing with long division. We're doing exactly the same thing. The only thing is when you ask yourself how many times does it go into, you just look at the first term. So x, what times x gives you 2x squared? Well, 2x does. 2x times x gives you 2x squared. But then you have to multiply the 2x times x plus 2, which gives you 2x squared plus 4x. Then we subtract. Well, when we subtract, that's the same thing as adding a negative, and that's what I do. So 7x plus negative 4x gives me 3x. 2x squared minus 2x squared is 0. So that term is gone. I bring down to my next term, the 7. So now I ask myself, x times what gives me 3x? Well, 3 does. So now I multiply the 3 times x plus 2, which gives me 3x plus 6. Subtract or add the negative, or add or subtract down, which is just the same thing as adding a negative. So 3x plus negative 3x is gone. 7 plus negative 6 is 1. So that's my remainder. So my answer, if I divided this, would be 2x plus 3, remainder of 1. So let me show you an example. So if I was going to do this problem here, I'm just going to write it out. So I'm going to go x squared plus 5x minus 28 divided by x minus 3. I always just look at this term. X times what gives me x squared? Well, x times x gives us x squared. So I'm just going to multiply by x. So now if I multiply the x times x minus 3, I'm left with x squared minus 3x. So I'm going to subtract now, which is the same thing as adding the opposite. So that would really be adding the 3. So 5x plus 3x gives me 8x. Bring down my next term. Start all over. X times what gives us 8x? Well, 8 does. So if I multiply 8 times x minus 3, I get 8x minus 24. Again, I'm just going to add the opposite. So that leaves me with a negative 4 for my remainder. Usually we write our remainders like this, negative 4 over the x minus 3. That is long division. Now there's a much easier way of doing it. It's called synthetic division, but we have to know how to do long division for our assessment this week. So in this problem, it says, which of the following is equal to x to the third plus 2x squared minus 3x minus 6 divided by, okay, well, I'm going to do long division on this thing. So I've got x to the third plus 2x squared minus 3x minus 6, and I'm dividing by x plus 2. Okay, so I just look at the first term. X times what gives me x to the third? Well, that's x squared. So I'm going to multiply x squared times x plus 2, which gives me x to the third plus 2x squared. I'm going to add the opposite. Well, guess what? That's going to cross off. They're both going to cross off. Bring down my next term, negative 3x. X times what gives me negative 3x? Well, minus 3. So if I multiply that out, I should have brought that down to minus 6 too. So that gives me negative 3x minus 6. If I add the opposite, it's going to be 0. So my answer should be x squared minus 3 using long division. All right. Now, we can divide using something called synthetic division. Now, there is a problem on the assessment where it asks you to do long division. You have to show your steps using long division. But then the rest of it, you can just do synthetic division. Synthetic division is a shorthand method of dividing a polynomial by a linear binomial by using only the coefficients. For synthetic division to work, the polynomial must be written in standard form using 0 as a coefficient for any missing term, and the divisor must be in the form x minus a. So how do we do synthetic division? all you do is you write out the terms. So if I'm dividing this, so I just use the 2, the 7, and the 9, and I write those down, 2, 7, 9. And then I take whatever makes this equal to 0, that's the value I use in the box here, so that's -2. So that's how we set it up. My next step, bring down the first term. So that's a 2. And then we multiply. -2 times 2 is -4. And then we add 7 plus -4 is 3. -2 times 3 is -6. 9 plus -6 is 3. So my answer would be, and then we just put our variables back in, since it started out as an x squared, you always go down 1. So this would be 2x plus 3, remainder 3. Now let's go back to the last problem that we did. Here, we ended up with x squared minus 3 for our answer. Let's do synthetic division here. So I take the coefficients of the numbers in front. So that was a 1, 2, -3, -6, and I'm dividing by x plus 2, so what makes this equal to 0? -2. Bring down the first term. Just bring it down, straight down. Then we multiply. -2 times 1 is -2. Then we add down. 2 minus 2 is 0. Then we multiply again. -2 times 0 is 0. Add straight down. -3. Then we multiply. -2 times -3 is 6. Add straight down. 0. The last number is always the remainder. So my remainder is 0. This was an x to the third, so it always goes down by one variable. So this is going to be 1x squared plus 0x minus 3, remainder 0. Now, this is the exact same answer I got up there. I just put 0x in there. You don't need that. So I have x squared minus 3. Exactly the same thing as I did with long division. Synthetic division is nice because it gets rid of all the variables. You don't have to deal with them, which makes it really nice. Okay, so here's a problem. Now, a lot of students would get this one wrong, and the reason is because if I wrote this in standard form, there's an x squared missing. So I would rewrite this as 3x to the fourth. I'm going to change my marker here a little bit thinner. So I would do 3x to the fourth minus x to the third plus 0x squared plus 5x minus 1. Now, if I'm going to do synthetic division, I take the coefficients. So 3, -1, 0, 5, -1. What am I going to put in the box here? Well, this is plus 2, so we use -2. Bring down the first term, 3. -2 times 3 is -6. Add straight down, -7. -2 times -7 is 14. Add straight down, that gives me 14. -2 times 14 is -28. Add straight down, that's -23. Multiply, -2 times -23 is 46. And so this would be, my remainder would be 45. Now it started out x to the fourth, so this is going to be 3x to the third minus 7x squared plus 14x minus 23. Remainder 45 over, what was that, x plus 2? And that would be my answer. Now, if you had to do this long division, you'd probably still be working on it. Synthetic division is awesome because it gets rid of all those variables. Use synthetic division to divide. Easy. This one, I'm just going to go 6, -5, -6. And I'm going to put a -3 in there. Bring down the 6. -3 times 6 is -18. That's going to be -23. 3 times, what is that? 69. And that's going to be -63. Oh, positive 63. So my answer would be 6x squared, or 6x minus 23. Remainder 63 over x plus 3. Now, the nice thing is, if you ever get a remainder of 0, you know that this would be a factor of this. But since we had a remainder, it's definitely not a factor. All right, and the last thing that we have to talk about today is you can use synthetic division to evaluate polynomials. This process is called synthetic substitution. The process of synthetic substitution is exactly the same as the process of synthetic division, but the final answer is interpreted differently as described by the remainder theorem. If the polynomial function p of x is divided by x minus a, then the remainder is the value. What the heck does that mean? Okay, so let's go to this problem. It says use synthetic substitution to evaluate the polynomial for the given value. Well, I could just plug 3 in here. Basically what they're saying is evaluate p of 3. They're asking us to plug 3 into this function. So that would be 4 times 3 squared minus 9 times 3 plus 2. So 3 squared is 9. 4 times 9 is 36 minus 27 plus 2. So 36 minus 27 is that 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. Is that right? Hope so. Now, what they're saying is we could do this synthetic division. When x equals 3, so I put 3 here. So that would be a 4, a negative 9, and a 2. Bring down the 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Negative 9 plus 12 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 plus 9 is 11. My remainder is always going to be the solution. Oh, look at that. I got 11, 11. So you can evaluate using synthetic division. You can evaluate a polynomial using synthetic division. All right, that is it for this week. Hope to see you on Monday. You guys have a great week. Bye.